Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Poof. You're used to a life of opulence since young, and if you plan on maintaining your original lifestyle, then you would need to try hard at getting a job. Martha said this derisively, and she seemed to relish in watching him try. She was quite shocked to find her grandson behaving with so much integrity over a girl. "Don't worry, Grandma. I will be able to take care of myself." Having said that, he attempted to end the conversation. On the other hand, she hastily yelled out, "Artie, are you sure that you want to go against my will just for that girl? Grandma, her name is Sophia Goodwin and you can address her as Sophia. Are you guys in a relationship?" "Yes," Arthur admitted. "Do you plan on marrying her?" Martha's eyes flickered, and it looked like her grandson had met his true love. "Grandma, let's not talk about this for now. I'm sorry to trouble you, but you will have to handle the family business for now. Give me some time." At that point, she could not help her thoughts as she narrowed her eyes. She knew his personality well, and she felt that time would prove whether he was truly in love with Sophia. She would wait and see for herself by then. However, she reckoned that her decision to freeze all of the bank accounts he held was the right one, as it was important to have him go through some hardships in life. Back home, Sophia moved into her own apartment and she went behind her parents back to live with Arthur. Coincidentally, her apartment was located extremely close to Presgrave Group, so she claimed that it was for the sake of work convenience, which prompted no reason for Drake and Emma to doubt her words. Despite living in the same space, Sophia and Arthur stayed in separate rooms, so they were not technically in cohabitation. After Arthur ended the phone call with his grandma, he instantly felt a wave of relief and he glanced at Sophia, who was currently doing the laundry on the balcony, before he initiated his help to her. Since he was young, he had never done any chores but was happy to help out despite having to do all that now. Are you a C-cup?" He held her pink undergarment in his hand and studied it. At that sight, Sophia blushed slightly and reached out to grab it from him. "Why are you studying this so intently?" Arthur took out another pink undergarment from the washing machine and she instantly pounced on him to snatch it away from him. "You should just go and relax on the couch. I can do this myself. I want to help." Having said that, he reached out and took out some clothes to hang them. After Sophia finished hanging out the washing, she saw him seated on the couch and he was busy tapping away on his laptop. Out of curiosity, she inched closer and asked, "What are you doing?" "Investing in the stock market. I thought all of your assets were frozen." She blinked. "Where did he get the money to invest in the stock market?" "I took out a loan." "From who?" "From your friends?" "No, I just went to a bank." "Huh? Arthur, you shouldn't take up a loan like how you borrow a pen. Do you realize how high the interest is? You should settle the loan right away." "I'll bear the interest." Sophia instantly stopped him. However, he grinned confidently. "Don't worry. I'll be able to settle the loan within a week." Despite not being as optimistic as him, she still had some savings which she could use to help settle the loan when it was due. "Sophia, let's have lunch at the same restaurant we went to last night. I like the food." Arthur folded his laptop shut and looked at her expectantly. At that moment, she was tickled by the idea. Last night, she had brought him to try out a seafood platter that was extremely spicy and she thought that his picky palate would not be able to tolerate that. However, he actually enjoyed the meal very much and the side dishes he tried from last night amazed him. "Sure, let's go for lunch at the same restaurant." "Are you sure that you're fine with it though?" she asked out of curiosity because she was afraid that he would get an upset stomach from the spicy food. As much as Arthur seemed like a spoiled brat, he actually liked the food that was enjoyed by the general public. Frankly, they even tasted much better than the ones prepared by the 5-star chef he brought back with him from abroad. The restaurant that he pestered Sophia to head for lunch consisted of several awestruck waitresses, thanks to his appearance from last night. Surprised to see his return today, they blushed and tried to find excuses to come over and sneak furtive looks at him as their hearts thudded hard. Furthermore, they were envious of Sophia for having such a handsome boyfriend. On the other hand, Sophia enjoyed the food from this restaurant as equally as Arthur did. Despite its low popularity with the crowd, the food was very delicious. Arthur enjoyed the dishes from this restaurant and he ate elegantly with a slightly lazy look. His casual gaze was enough to captivate the women around him, and several other female customers from the other tables sneaked furtive looks at him too, some of them even snapped photos of him. Sophia lifted her head and noticed a girl brazenly capture a photo of him. She quickly interjected, "Excuse me, I would appreciate it if you stopped taking photos of us." At that moment, the girl awkwardly put her phone away. Arthur and Sophia finished their lunch and came out of the restaurant. Subsequently, they entered a bustling mall. As soon as they reached the entrance, a sexy woman walked over to them and kept her awe-filled eyes on Arthur as she hurriedly took out a name card from her wallet before handing it to him. "Hey, sir. I'm the editor of Cloud Media, and I would like to ask whether you're interested in becoming a celebrity. We're currently recruiting a new batch of budding talents to undergo training. Your looks and temperament fit our criteria perfectly." The woman introduced herself and looked at him expectantly. Sophia was initially caught by surprise, but she smiled and rejected on behalf of Arthur. "Excuse me, my friend isn't interested. Ma'am, you're the right fit for our talent recruit too. Why don't you two come over and have an interview at my company?" It was only then the woman realized that there was another pretty and young-looking girl standing behind him. Arthur's expression instantly turned cold and he rejected the woman. "We're not interested. Sir, your appearance fits our criteria perfectly and your aura, image, height, and looks are top-notch. How about this? I'll sign on the two of you and you'll instantly get the best conditions right away. How does that sound?" The woman was intent on grasping onto the two of them as they were too dazzling. "I'm sorry, but we're really not interested. Thanks." Sophia clutched Arthur's arm and walked off after saying that. Sir. Hold on. How about this? We'll sign you on with an offer of 10 million. How about that?" The woman gave her best offer. At that point, Arthur was annoyed. "Stop bothering us, okay?" The woman instantly felt a chill run down her spine as soon as his gaze hit her. She felt herself under immense pressure, and the man in front of her did not seem like an ordinary man. The elegant aura he exuded came naturally from within. Still, the woman persisted and kept her eyes on the two retreating figures. Oh, what a shame. If only she could get this man to sign under her, then their company would definitely stand out from then on. She was sure that he would become a top star in the entertainment industry. Sophia turned around a few times and noticed that the woman continued to follow them. It was beyond her expectation that a simple jaunt in the mall with Arthur would end up with him attracting the attention of a talent scout. Earlier on at the restaurant, she had also stopped a bunch of girls from taking photos of him. Indeed, this man attracted the attention of women wherever he went. Sophia and Arthur continued to window shop until they decided to head back. He was used to being surrounded and flattered by the crowd since young, but he now realized that he enjoyed a simple but heartwarming life. They arrived back home at about 6:00 p.m. and Sophia had already purchased some pasta and fruits. She intended to spend the night catching up on some TV shows with him. Spending their time separately, she was busy in the kitchen as he used his laptop to check on his shares and stock. At about 7:00 p.m., dinner of pasta and meatballs was served. She also laid out some side dishes she bought in the afternoon and a simple dinner was then ready. Arthur washed his hand and went to take a look at the delicious dinner spread. He found himself craving to eat, and he was no longer a picky eater as before. After moving in with Sophia, he changed a lot of his bad habits. In the past, he could only go to sleep on a bed that cost millions, and he was very picky about the surroundings he stayed in too. Now that he was with her, he managed to sleep soundly on a bed that was merely a few thousand while accompanied by the bustling noise of the crowded night market outside. After dinner, Arthur went to take a shower first while Sophia remained perched on the couch as she continued watching a movie. Although she was unemployed at the moment, she did some freelance work and submitted short articles to a special column. On days when she was lucky enough, her income from that would be sufficient as her pocket money. Sophia heard the noise of the toilet door being opened and she peeked at him red-faced. He was wearing the gray pajamas that she had bought for him. The pajamas fitted well on him and he looked casual, giving off the vibes of a boy next door. Arthur walked over to the direction of the couch and sat next to her. His strapping tall figure further accentuated Sophia's petiteness. She caught a whiff of his distinct scent in the air. In the past, he had a cold, elegant fragrance of cedar on him which contrasted his scent right now, the crisp but pure aroma of shower gel. On top of that, the masculinity radiating off of him was captivating. Sophia silently took a gulp and lifted her head to look at the man with wet dark dripping hair who was currently right in front of her. His translucent forehead was revealed and paired with his perfectly sculpted features, making him utterly irresistible. She squirmed slightly and purposely inched closer to him. As such, she could conveniently lie in his arms and take a rest as she watched the TV shows later on. Arthur's dazzling eyes flickered slightly and he astutely realized that she was inching closer to him. He kept his eyes on the television, but he naturally took her into his arms. Sophia instantly leaned half of her body into his arms as her heart thudded hard. She buried her face into his arms and snuggled against him as she took in the feeling of her head on his firm chest. She felt a rush of comfort and safety at that moment. Neither of them spoke a word and they remained snuggled against each other quite naturally and continued to watch some TV shows. To Arthur, he did not care much about the plot of the show. The most important thing was that he enjoyed this moment and his heart was rippled with content. At that moment, the scene on the TV show depicted a romantic scene between the male and female lead, which happened to be quite an explicit one too. The male and female lead stood under a dim street lamp and they were deep in embrace as they kissed passionately. She reached out to grab the remote control to skip the scene, but she realized that it was by his side. "Hey, hand me the remote control," she said. He saw through her intention, so he refused to hand over the remote control. At the same time, he focused his dark eyes intently on her. At that, she blushed from his focused gaze at her. Then, he used his warm palm to gently grasp and maneuver her chin. She knew what this entailed, so she quickly shut her eyes. He smiled at the anxious sight of the girl in his arms as her eyelashes fluttered. Knowing exactly how she would react next, he purposely planted a kiss on her forehead. She waited until she no longer felt his lips on her forehead before opening her eyes slightly to peek. At that moment, his dominating lips landed on her red lips and she instantly felt her heart race. He's so good at such flirtatious behavior. Undeniably though, the kiss was full of passion and she was satisfied. He kissed her so dominantly and passionately without any hint of aggression, it was pure and clean. Sophia found herself limp in his arms after his kiss. Meanwhile, Arthur rose to his feet and went to the bathroom as he needed to take a cold shower. On the other hand, she went back into her room and clutched at her chest as her heart thudded frantically. She knew that Arthur was a gentleman, so he would not resort to any hanky-panky. However, it was herself that she was afraid of. She was worried that she would someday find him irresistible and pounce on him. Fortunately, Arthur knocked on the door to bid goodnight to her before heading into his room. Around 3 p.m. at the airport, a private jet had just landed and Elliot escorted Lorelei, who had just returned home, out of the airport to head directly to Presgrave Hospital. Along the way, Lorelei tried to negotiate with him and she hoped that Elliot would let her father off the hook and forgive her family members. However, Elliot rejected her requests. Not only that, he threatened that if she was to not undergo the surgery immediately, then her entire family would face a much horrible fate in the future. The lights to the operating theater were switched on and Lorelei shut her eyes tightly. At that moment, there was a single drop of tear that fell from the side of her eye out of discontentment. The pain she felt in her body, plus the inner turmoil she experienced made her feel bleak. 20 minutes later, in the resting area, Elliot glanced at Benedict, who had just pushed open the door and walked in. There was a sparkle in Elliot's weary-looking eyes. "Is it completed?" "Yes, the surgery has ended, so you can be at ease now." Elliot could finally heave a sigh of relief as he had finally got an outcome after tracking for information and running around to handle matters for multiple days. "Are you sure that you want to destroy it? Perhaps it may be useful in the future." "I'm sure about that," said Elliot with a firm look in his eyes. In the future, the fate of the Presgrave family would only be held in the hands of one particular woman. As such, there would be no other ways to birth a successor. "Have a good rest back home. You must be really tired," Benedict expressed his concern. "Okay. I'll leave things here in your hands, then." At this point, it was already 5 a.m. and all Elliot wanted was to leave and head home. The night summer breeze was quite cooling and a dark, colored SUV made its way through the gates of a posh villa. Elliot tried his best to not make a sound as he held his coat in his hands and walked up the stairs. He decided not to enter the master bedroom, so he went into a guest room to take a rest to avoid disturbing Anastasia. However, as soon as he got to the living area on the second floor, he noticed a slender figure asleep with her cheeks against a pillow under the dim lights. She seemed to be maintaining a waiting posture but ended up falling asleep. At that sight, Elliot felt a pang in his heart as he gently placed down his coat and made his way toward her side. He covered her body with the blanket that had slid off to the ground and he was slightly distressed as he touched her cold arm. It was then that Anastasia was jolted awake by his gentle gesture and she opened her eyes wide. As soon as she saw that it was the person she had been longing to see him, she stretched out her arms in surprise and hugged him. "You're finally back." He squatted down and looked at her slightly chidingly. "Why didn't you sleep in the room? You'll catch a cold out here." Upon knowing that there was a chance that he could be back tonight, she was unable to go to sleep at ease. She had merely fallen asleep less than an hour ago, so she was not afraid of catching a cold. She was very concerned about not getting to know firsthand that he had arrived home. Anastasia's pretty eyes landed on his slightly unshaven face, which somehow still looked handsome. "It looks like he had been running around tirelessly abroad for the past few days. Go back to the room and take a shower. Your eyes are bloodshot." Anastasia reached out and helped him toward the direction of the master bedroom. Though Elliot did not feel tired at all, he did not mind doing anything she said as long as his actions put her at ease. "Lorelei has just undergone surgery and I've destroyed everything, so there's no need for you to worry," he explained to her in a low voice. Having heard that, Anastasia heaved a tiny sigh. She was upset that Lorelei and her family had resorted to such a despicable way to plot against her. In the future, she would not let that family have an easy life. As for Elliot, he went to take a shower and had a shave. He took slightly longer to shower because he had taken some lives when he was abroad. He was worried that there would be residue of the stench of blood on him, so he made sure to clean himself up well. His team had dealt with the incident abroad well, and there was no longer anything to worry about. Anastasia lay on the soft bed and glanced in the direction of the bathroom as she waited patiently for her husband to come out. 10 minutes later, she saw him exiting with a wrapped towel around his waist, and she did not mask her perusing look at all as she admired his strapping figure. His dark hair was slightly tousled, and he exuded an air of gentle homeliness. He uncovered the blanket and slid into bed before reaching out to pull her into his arms to get some sleep. "Let's get a good sleep." Elliot planted a kiss on her hair. Anastasia had her skin against his, and she smelled the scent of shower gel on him. His scent seemed to have a hypnotizing effect, and in no time at all, she fell asleep in his arms. He had his cheeks pressed against her forehead, and he could finally be at ease as he shut his eyes and slept. At around 8 a.m., Elliot woke up and went into Jared's room. He looked at the little guy's adorable figure in bed before revealing a content smile as he studied Jared while sitting by the side of the bed. It was coincidentally the time for Jared to wake up as well. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Elliot and leaped up joyfully. "Daddy." Elliot reached out to take Jared into his arms and took a whiff of the slightly milky scent from Jared's adorable body. Subsequently, Elliot lifted Jared. "Did you miss me while I was gone?" "Of course, I did." Jared nodded solemnly. Elliot planted a kiss on Jared's forehead before rubbing his head against the little man's forehead. The affectionate feelings the father and son duo had for each other were clearly felt in the room. For Elliot, despite the amount of bloodshed he experienced outside, his soul seemed to be rejuvenated by the familial warmth he experienced once he reached home. Everything that he did was mainly to give his beloved ones a peaceful, safe life. At the apartment, Sophia hazily heard the sound of her phone ringing, prompting her to grasp her phone and answered the call in a dazed state. "Hello, Sophia speaking." "Sophia, open the door for me in a short while. I've gone to do some grocery shopping for you, and I'll cook a meal for you." Instantly, Sophia's eyes widened in fright and she quickly asked, "Mom, where are you right now?" "I'm in the elevator." "Mom, why didn't you let me know that you were coming? Why should I have to inform my own daughter before visiting her place? Hurry up and open the door." Mom, hold on. I need to change." Yet, Sophia did not even have time to put on her clothes as she hastily opened the door to rush out before twisting open the door to the other bedroom. She hurriedly pestered the man asleep in bed. "Arthur, get up right now. My mom's here. She cannot see you here." "Huh?" He opened his eyes, and as he sat up while the silken blanket slid off his chest. All Sophia could see was his exposed chest, and it remained glaringly in front of her eyes. He studied her intently with an interesting glint in his eyes. She was currently dressed in a pink spaghetti-strap nightgown, and her captivating figure was entirely displayed before him. He could not help revealing a slight smile wittily. "I knew that you're a C-cup." At that point, she reached out and immediately covered his eyes as she retorted angrily, "Where are your roving eyes looking at? Stop it." Arthur could feel her soft hands covering his eyes. A man was usually most easily aroused in the morning, but she dared to touch him at that moment. He could smell the sweet scent of hers linger in his nostrils, and it was quite a trigger to his sensations. Without a second word, he reached out and pulled her into his arms. He plopped backward, which resulted in her falling onto him with their chests pressing against each other. "You." "Arthur, let go of me." It was then that a knock sounded on the door and Emma had arrived. "My mom's here. You need to hide." Sophia tugged his hand while her little hands were still lingering on his body as she was pushing him somewhere. To that, Arthur immediately responded by panting hard, "Stop touching me. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry." At that point, she was fairly anxious and frantic. She did not realize that she had touched him where she was not supposed to. He noticed the bright, red flush on her face out of anxiety, and he kindly uncovered the blanket to get out of bed. He had some pants on his lower torso, and he grabbed the pajama top by the side to put on as he said, "Now, open the door." "Not yet." I can't let my mom see you, otherwise we won't get to see each other again, she replied. I have a way of making myself disappear. Outside the door, Emma's loud hollers rang out persistently, Sophia. Sophia. Why aren't you answering the door? The wardrobe. Yes, that's right. I'm sorry, but you'll have to suffer for a moment. Sophia pulled open the wardrobe and intended to get him to hide inside just like last time. Arthur pushed her toward the door. Got it. I'll stay hidden. As Sophia heard the sound of the door shutting behind her, she thought to herself, he must have hidden inside the wardrobe, so I'll just have to keep Mom out of the guest room later on. Emma, who was carrying a load of groceries with her outside the door, started to wonder, why is Sophia taking so long to open the door even though she's home? In the end, she could only knock on the door once again. Sophia, open the door. What are you doing inside? I'm here. At the moment, Sophia had an armful of Arthur's laundry in her arms as she collected them from the laundry line outside and headed toward her room. Subsequently, she bundled up everything and stuffed them into her wardrobe. She was just about to turn around and walk out of the master bedroom when she saw that she had dropped a pair of his underwear on the ground. Hastily, she grabbed it from the ground and stuffed it into her wardrobe before taking a deep breath. She took another look in the direction of the guest room, and she reckoned that Arthur must have already hidden inside the wardrobe. After taking forever, she finally yanked open the front door as Emma glanced at Sophia perplexedly and questioned, "What were you doing?" I just woke up. Sophia purposely yawned and pretended to act sleepy. You little brat. Did you stay up the whole night again last night? Watch your health. Your body won't be able to take the stress from the lack of sleep. It's really bad for your body. I'm aware of that, Mom. I've bought you some breakfast. Go ahead and have some, said Emma as she started to tidy up the items on the table, diligently cleaning up the place for her daughter. Originally, she and Drake had refused to allow Sophia to move out by herself, but after considering the fact that Sophia was a grown-up woman after all, it was normal for her to yearn for some privacy. However, that did not stop her and Drake from worrying about their daughter constantly. Emma started to tidy up the place and glanced in the direction of the door to the guest room. She suddenly realized that Sophia must not have gone inside the guest room to air out the room and the items inside, so there was a chance that there would be mold growth inside that room. After finishing her thought, she reached out and twisted the doorknob to the guest room and pushed open the door. Sophia was just about to have her breakfast when she suddenly heard the door to the guest room being pushed open. Frightened, she rushed over and thought, why didn't Arthur lock the door from the inside? Mom! Mom! She rushed toward the entrance of the guest room and noticed that the room was neat and tidy while Arthur was nowhere to be found. She could not help glancing toward the wardrobe and was stunned to find that the wardrobe door, the side that could fit a person inside, was actually ajar. Sophia revealed an astonished yelp all of a sudden, and Emma, who was by the side, was startled by that. Emma turned around to look at Sophia. Why did you yell like that? Sophia glanced toward the window with an extremely horrified expression, and the only large window panel that could be opened was currently wide open. She knew that there was a slight path that led to the corridor, and that was the spot where the air conditioning unit was hung on. Did he actually? Sophia gasped out of fright. Please tell me that he did not just climb out of the window. We're on the 18th floor. At this point, she hurriedly headed toward Emma. Mom, I need to go out. As soon as she finished her sentence, she yanked open the front door and stepped out as her heart thudded frantically. She felt as if her heart was about to stop beating any moment now. He'd better be safe. She frantically rushed out to the corridor, and suddenly, she saw that Arthur was standing lazily at the corner of the corridor as he waited for her. Why, you've given me such a fright. How could you climb out of the window just like that? Sophia's eyes were reddened from the fright she received and she reached out to punch him. Although it was just a light punch, it was a clear indication of the extent of her anxiety and terror. Arthur was stunned as he did not expect that she would be so frightened by that. He grabbed her into his arms immediately and apologized in a low voice, "I'm sorry." Sophia was trembling slightly in his arms. As soon as she realized that he had climbed out of the window, her heart nearly stopped and she was hit by a wave of fear that she was going to lose him. "I would rather my mom find out about you than to have you do such a dangerous thing again." She lifted her head and uttered. Arthur ruffled her hair and smiled. "That's all right. I'll find another chance to meet your parents next time. I'm afraid that they'll explode if they see me right now. Wait here for a moment. I'll bring you some clothes and send you to a hotel nearby." To that, Arthur nodded affirmatively. After all, he was currently just dressed in a pair of pajamas. Sophia quickly went back inside and gathered some clothes for him. Meanwhile, Emma was busy in the kitchen as she prepared a nourishing lunch for her daughter. Sophia quickly mentioned to Emma that she was going out to see a friend and that she would be back very soon. Emma then offered to invite Sophia's friend back for lunch and she grunted while heading out of the door. Subsequently, the couple made their way to the underground parking lot. She owned a tiny little car and though it was not a luxurious one, it was a very convenient mode of transport for her. Arthur entered the back seat and started to get changed. He removed his top and grabbed a white t-shirt to put on. Following that, he changed into a pair of track pants. After he was done changing, he took a seat in the front passenger seat. There was a distinctive strong hormonal scent that belonged to him that hit Sophia's nostrils. At that point, she found her breathing slightly hitched. She turned and glanced at the man who had changed out of his pajamas. Even though he had on ordinary clothes, he looked very handsome in them and the elegant air that he exuded was unmissable. He was perfect even just from looking at the back of him. "What's wrong?" Arthur noticed her staring at him in a daze and he curled his lips into a slight smile as he glanced at her with a teasing and seducing look. Needless to say, Sophia's heart was thudding hard and she realized that life had been great with this man, except for the fact that her heart had constantly pounded. Is this a good or bad thing? Is this a test to see how strong my heart is? He suddenly pulled open the car door and alighted from the car before saying to her, "I'll drive." Then, her side of the car door was suddenly yanked open by him and she asked him in confusion, "Why?" "I'm worried that you won't be able to concentrate on the road because of me." Arthur was full of confidence that his charm was definitely going to make her lose concentration. Instantly, her pretty face flushed red despite knowing that he was speaking the truth. As it was because of this very fact, she felt shyer than ever as she muttered a retort, "That's not true." However, she meekly positioned herself to the front passenger seat. Indeed, it was true that he had an irresistible charm as she actually forgot to buckle her seatbelt upon taking her seat. Start the car when she suddenly noticed him reach out and leaned his upper torso over to her side. Instantly, her pretty eyes widened and her eyelashes fluttered wildly. Subsequently, she shut her eyes instinctively and awaited his kiss. At that moment, she heard his low rumble of laughter sounding by her ears. Soon after that, she felt someone tugging on her seatbelt and buckling it for her. Slightly embarrassed, Sophia wished so badly for the earth to swallow her up. Right then, he cupped her tiny face in his large palms and his dominance engulfed her as he planted a sweet good morning kiss on her lips. "I was afraid that if I didn't kiss you, you would be disappointed," said Arthur in an annoying tone. "You're taking advantage of me, and yet you think your actions are justifiable, huh?" Sophia chided him in a low voice. In response, he burst out laughing. He did not look the least bit similar to a young master from an affluent family at all in this present moment. He was just a childish man, child in front of his beloved woman. "Stop laughing. Let's go," she urged him. Arthur's large palm gracefully maneuvered the steering wheel as they drove out of the underground parking lot. Meanwhile, inside Sophia's house, Emma noticed some intriguing clues soon enough. Why are there 2 toothbrushes on her basin? There are also 2 bath towels, and the color of one of them clearly belongs to a male. As such, she started to search the place and soon found a pair of male bedroom slippers and even a pair of sneakers. At that point, she finally realized the reason why Sophia insisted on moving out. She had a boyfriend and they were both now cohabitating. Emma was momentarily dumbfounded as she did not expect Sophia to have suddenly grown into a woman who had a boyfriend. Gosh. As parents, we can't interfere in such matters, so I guess I can only get her to bring him back home when the time comes. By then, We'll be able to judge his personality and find out more about his family background. Emma decided not to expose Sophia's secret for the time being to avoid Sophia from feeling awkward. As such, she decided to head home and discuss the situation with Drake before inquiring with Sophia another day on whether she would bring the mystery man home. After Anastasia had sent Jared off to school, she decided that there was something that she had to do. She had to organize a meeting and invite every elder member as well as those who held important positions from each of the Presgrave extended family. She would then have to reveal during the meeting what Liam and his family had done and raise a warning to everyone else. Clearly, she did not wish for the same thing to occur again. If anyone dared to go after her family, then they would have to face the consequences of it. Elliot was not going to interfere in this matter because he had left things in the hands of his wife. He was just going to be her steadfast supporter and back her from behind. At 9:00 a.m., everyone important who was supposed to attend the meeting had received the notification. Naturally, some of the older generations, who presumed that they held exalted statuses due to their age, sent their children as representatives. The reason was that they intended to emphasize their status as Anastasia's elders. This was their unspoken way of going against this young lady, who was the young mistress of the Presgrave family. At the meeting room of Presgrave Group with the capacity of 30 packs, every family representative that was supposed to attend had already gathered together at 10:30 a.m. Amongst them was Jacob, who was also in attendance to represent his father. All of them had heard of the things that Liam and Lorelai did, so they were on tenterhooks at the moment as they could tell why Anastasia had called for this meeting today. At 10:32 a.m., the sound of high heels were heard clicking rhythmically outside the door to the meeting room. Soon, Anastasia appeared dressing in an elegant custom-made suit and she strode purposefully into the room. Her long hair billowed behind and she exuded elegance and dominance as the lady of the family. She had no intentions of masking her dominant aura, nor did she turn up to this meeting as the younger generation of the Presgraves. She appeared at this meeting as the exalted young mistress of Presgrave family. Everyone on the scene could tell by sensing the aura she radiated. Subsequently, she took a seat in the middle of the room and swept her eyes across each person in attendance. She paused for a moment and considered with a solemn expression before voicing out, "Thank you all for making the time to attend this meeting that I've organized." "Anastasia, why did you call us all here for an emergency meeting?" A woman in her 50s voiced out first and called out Anastasia's name as if she was not the Mrs. Presgrave. Anastasia shot a look at that woman, whose heart instantly clenched upon her gaze. The woman hurriedly corrected herself with a smile. "Mrs. Presgrave, please enlighten us. I trust that everyone has heard of a matter that just happened within the past few days. Dare I say, it was quite a despicable thing to do. Liam and Lorelai Presgrave have stolen from the hospital and attempted to bear a child with my husband's genes by quietly giving birth in another country. After our investigation, Liam will be facing imprisonment of at least 10 years while Lorelai will be facing imprisonment of 3 years. From now on, Liam Presgrave's branch of the family will no longer be part of the Presgraves while terminating them from any relations with our family." At that moment, there was an outburst in the room and everyone continued to put on an act of indignance. That was such a despicable thing to do. How dare they do that? This is outrageous. That's right. Lorelai used to be such a promising young one, and she obtained such high qualifications too. I can't believe that she's actually an ugly and despicable person within. They tried to break up your family, Mrs. Presgrave, so they deserve this punishment. The crowd in the room was full of curses for Liam and Lorelai. Soon enough, Anastasia put a stop to that and spoke with an air of authority in a clear voice. I hope that each of you will cease interaction with Liam and his members of the family. At the same time, I would like to use this matter to seriously inform all of you here one thing. If any of you here dared to disrupt my family, ruin the reputation of my family members, or do anything that would harm the safety of my family members, there will be consequences. The least that could happen to you guys would be expulsion from the Presgrave family, while the worst would be imprisonment. I do not wish to see such a matter that could result in the downfall of the Presgraves. Mrs. Presgrave, your words make perfect sense. We lead a great life with the help of the Presgrave family, so what else could we ask for? Yes, that's right, Mrs. Presgrave. We're really proud to be able to work alongside you and to maintain our close family ties, which have been passed on since more than 100 years ago. Jacob clenched his fist under the table and trembled once he released it. That was because 2 days before, his father had mentioned about joining the board of directors of Presgrave Group. However, it looked like this matter was completely unachievable right now. Anastasia was warning them to refrain from seeking things that did not belong to them from the Presgrave family. I may be young in age and have plenty of things to learn, but that doesn't mean that I'm weak-willed and a pushover. I hope that none of you here will get to experience first-hand how I handle things, because I would be glad to just maintain a peaceful relationship with everyone, Anastasia spoke calmly. In the past, Harriet's identity as the head woman of Presgraves held her back from doing plenty of things, but she soon realized that there was no point in maintaining the Presgrave family. As such, Harriet had instructed her to keep a distance from this bunch of people if necessary. Furthermore, Anastasia was told that she could easily sever ties with them and live a peaceful life without being disrupted. As soon as Anastasia's words hit, everyone in the room was immediately caught by surprise and sensed the polite warning behind the words of the family's young mistress. They were aware that she had broken the original close ties of their families, and she no longer paid much heed to the link between their families and the Presgrave family. Presently, it was their turn to grasp tightly to their relationship with Anastasia. On the contrary, she was no longer the one required to treat them well out of obligation. After the meeting ended, several ladies from the older generation took the chance to build up a bond with Anastasia as they tried to win her favor. However, she did not give them a chance and left immediately in her car. Anastasia entered the back seat before Adriana asked, "Miss Tillman, do you want to go for a walk to clear your mind?" "Yes. Let's go for a walk together," Anastasia responded. At that moment, her phone went off and she reached out to answer the call. "Hey. Where have you disappeared to after the meeting?" asked Elliot from the other end. Clearly, he must have been looking for her. "I just left and I'm about to go for a walk to get some fresh air." "Okay. I'll make a lunch reservation and I'll see you for lunch then." "Sure." Anastasia smiled. "Adriana, re-route to the prison. I would like to meet someone there." Anastasia suddenly changed her mind about taking a walk. "To see Lorelai?" "Yes," she responded. Lorelai was still detained in prison at the moment. Inside the lockup cell, Lorelai had lost her haughtiness as she remained curled up in a corner with her long hair pulled into a ponytail behind her head. She was bare-faced without any makeup on. All that was left written on her face was frailty and weariness. It was then that someone walked over and stated, "Lorelai Presgrave," over and stated, "Lorelai Presgrave, someone is here to see you. Get up." Hearing that, Lorelai was a bit shocked. Is Mom here? Did Dad manage to bail me out? When she came to the visiting room with the handcuffs on, her gaze overflowed with panic and guilt upon seeing who was waiting for her on the chair. Anastasia was the last person she had expected to see. On the other hand, Anastasia's piercing gaze was filled with spite and rage. Sitting down with a lowered head, the embarrassed Lorelei could feel the scorching gaze projected on her, which made her cheeks turn hot as if they were just slapped. "You really are shameless, Lorelei," stated Anastasia coldly. "I have no choice. I was forced to do that. Besides, I have liked Elliot since I was a child. It was me who first appeared in his life, so why were you the one who he married? I cannot accept this." Lorelei revealed her suppressed emotions. "There are no such things as who came first or who came last in love, so stop giving me such excuses. He's my man now and you will not hurt him." Lorelei's face reddened as she wanted to rebuke her, but she soon realized that everything she had to say would go against Anastasia no matter what. "I wanted to give birth to his child, even if it meant that the child will be illegitimate." Lorelei smiled bitterly. Suppressing her emotions, Anastasia rejected her words outright. "You don't have even an ounce of right to do that." Lorelei suddenly lashed out at Anastasia while retorting, "You think that Elliot would love you forever? One day, he will meet another woman that makes him realize he had a change of heart. Stop being so conceited." Regardless of anyone, a woman would still be agitated upon hearing these words. Yet, Anastasia only listened to this calmly while knowing that her words were spoken just to spite her. "I think you should be thinking about your own future, Lorelei. About your father, he should be serving a sentence of no less than 10 years. If I have my lawyers work a bit harder and dig up some more dirt on him, even 20 years is not impossible." "You don't cross the line, Anastasia." Lorelei started to panic. "As for your mother, since your father's company is on the brink of bankruptcy and has stopped all transactions on the stock market, I think she would have to work for the rest of her life to repay the debt your father owes. Not only her, even your brother will also share the same fate. Still, all of this is rooted from what you and father have done to yourselves, so this is merely retribution." After hearing this, Lorelei flopped onto her chair with tears of regret as she begged, "Anastasia, please leave my dad alone. I beg of you. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I can apologize to you until you're satisfied." Yet, Anastasia only looked at her coldly. "The only apology I want from you is for you to taste the same pain I went through." Stating that, she then left elegantly while leaving Lorelei deeply steeped in hatred. Immediately after exiting the premise, Anastasia's cold look was nowhere to be seen as she had a gentle expression when picking up Elliot's call. "Okay. I'm coming to the restaurant now." The restaurant had a warm atmosphere that was especially suitable for a couple to dine in. With a delicious lunch accompanied with wine, any conversation would lead to a romantic one. Standing up, Elliot took her bag and pulled a seat out for her. Anastasia, who joyously accepted her husband's gentlemanly gesture, felt very happy inside. "Nobody gave you a hard time in the meeting this morning, did they?" he asked dotingly. "Nope." Anastasia smiled and shook her head. "If they did, tell me. I will handle it." To that, she only smiled confidently. "Relax. As your wife, I will deal with trivia matters like this." Of course, he knew that she had a strong personality. As much as she looked gentle on the outside, she was actually tough within. "The company will be hosting a charity event this week under our names. You can invite your friends to the event as well," said Elliot. "Really? Then, I'll invite Felicia and Grace. Oh, there's also my new assistant, Sophia. Is that the girl that's always with Artie?" Elliot recalled who she was. "Yup. I think they are dating." Anastasia nodded. Taking his phone out, he called Arthur to ask his whereabouts. "Hey, Elliot." Arthur picked his call up. "Where are you? Are you still in the country?" "I am. Do you want to go out for a meal or something? I was thinking of inviting you to a charity event that my company is hosting this Friday." "Sure. I'll be there. I'll be bringing a partner with me." "No problem. See you then." Elliot hung up and told Anastasia Artie will come. He might bring Sophia along too. "See, I told you so." "Looks like we'll be receiving a wedding invitation very soon," she exclaimed happily. On the other hand, Elliot knew Arthur's family and understood that his family was not just some wealthy group, as they had migrated abroad about 200 years ago and increased their influence while still maintaining their secrecy. Thus, for a girl with a normal background like Sophia, it would not be easy for her to marry into the Arnolds. "Yup. I hope that we can receive their wedding invitation soon too." Elliot nodded. Speaking of the devil, Arthur was just waiting for Sophia to come pick him up at the hotel while he repeatedly checked his watch. Ever since he slept on her bed, even the presidential suite could not satisfy him anymore, as he missed the cozy feeling of that tiny home. It was around 4 p.m. that he finally got a call from Sophia, who informed that she was on her way to pick him up. Arthur stood by the window and smiled while counting down the time. What he did not notice was that the window reflected his childlike smile. Suddenly, he received a message from the elders of his family. They were asking him when he would be back, as there were important things awaiting his decision. Gradually, the smile on his face disappeared when the sun shone on his face, for it had been replaced with a solemn expression. At last, he heard the doorbell ring and opened the door quickly, only to be startled by the panting woman. Seems like she ran here, judging from her flushed face and uneven breathing. "Did she want to see me that badly? Why are you out of breath?" Arthur held her hand and invited her inside. Sophia did not want to tell him that she indeed ran all the way here after parking her car. "Let's go. My mom left." She held his arm and added, "Let's go home." Her actions made Arthur smile. "All right." With his arms around her, he gushed, "Let's go home. My mom even made a few dishes for me, so we don't have to think about what to eat for dinner." She chuckled. "Really? Then, I should try Mrs. Goodwin's cooking." He then informed her, "By the way, there's a banquet this Friday hosted by the Presgrave group. I'm thinking of bringing you with me." "Huh? But I don't have a dress for that sort of occasion." "No worries. I can help you with that. Aren't you kinda broke now?" Sophia blinked and asked him. Amused by her words, he thought, "Does she think so little of me?" The view at night was stunning as Arthur drove the car with Sophia along the coastline. Stopping at an open area, the two of them walked toward the glass bridge. She took her phone and snuck photos of the man from time to time. Regardless of which angle she took it from, be it his silhouette, side profile, or even the back of his head, it looked just like he came out of a magazine, with him being a top male model while every frame looked straight out of a film. Still, she preferred to take selfies with him more. Since Arthur had long limbs, he took the phone and hugged Sophia, who laid obediently in his embrace while emanating a romantic atmosphere. Now that the two of them were a couple of their own consensus, they did not need a grand confession, for the best to have is each other's company.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.